breaking of bread is commonly a phrase meaning to have a meal together. Now, if you've done Christianity for any length of time, you'll realise that parties are a good way of getting stuff done. And my friends, parties are biblical. I mean, read through the Gospels and you'll see that Jesus is going to parties left, right and centre. I kind of feel that maybe the Lord is calling us to break bread soon.
This is the way.
But seriously, I don't think it's a pie in the sky idea. I actually think we should be getting together and noshing down quite regularly.
Good.
However, in this Acts 2 section, contextually, I actually think it's not talking about eating together as in a meal, but taking the Lord's Supper. So why do I think that it means the Lord's Supper and not just eating together?
Riddle me this.
Well, a couple of reasons actually. The first one is that we've talked about fellowship already. See, the fellowship was already mentioned, so they're already hanging out together. And there's even that section in Acts 2 where it says that they broke bread regularly together. And in that context, it sort of implies that that was about just normal everyday meals. The Greek has something slightly different in this phraseology. It's actually the breaking of the bread, as in to indicate something slightly more important than just the breaking of bread. And the bread is obviously a reference to Jesus' body. It's slightly more important than just eating stuff. So the Lord's Supper is something that Jesus instituted, and it's mentioned in Matthew, Mark, and 1 Corinthians. The comment that Jesus makes here is to do it in remembrance of him until he returns. I mean, like we forget, right? I mean, that sacrifice that Jesus did was pretty big. It was pretty important. But I don't know about you, but I think humanly speaking, we need to be reminded on a constant basis of stuff because we're just a little bit thick. See, what we do when we get comfortable is that we get complacent, and that's kind of like a big problem, and especially in our Western Christianity where we have freedom. We need that coming back to the Lord, and actually, I think we see that biblically all over the place. Let's look at that remembrance idea from the very beginning.
Let's start at the very beginning.
I mean, look at Adam and Eve. They had one rule.
You had one job.
Just the one?
Don't eat from that tree. Don't eat the fruit from the tree. No, don't eat the fruit from the tree. Everything else, but don't eat the... Oh, you've eaten the fruit. Humanity is not very good at following the rules.
Not good enough!
But that's why we need Jesus. A lot of the history of the Old Testament, we see the Israelites being utterly distracted by foreign gods and idols and golden calves and all sorts of things.
No! Hurry, no! Don't look at the light!
They have to constantly redevote themselves to the Lord. This idea of keep coming back, of returning, is a theme that the Word of God brings up again and again.
Oh, yes!
Communion gives us that opportunity to return to the heart of worship, which is Christ crucified. In our communion services, we have the symbolic gesture of eating the bread separately, indicating that we've each individually accepted Christ, but then we drink the wine or the fruit juice together to indicate that we have corporately done it together, meaning that we have both the individual and the togetherness of worship, of remembrance, of coming back to that starting point.
Oh, I get it!
We're not saying in this instance that we are hungry and we've come to eat a meal, but we've come back to that place of remembrance where we're putting Christ as the Lord of our lives, and we need his grace to take our punishment. And this is so important with everything that we do in him. It's more important than the songs that we sing. And it's actually more important than the life that we live.
Really?
Because it's all about him. And the very reason why communion, the Lord's Supper, was a devotion for the early church and is a devotion for us is because it is worship, the worship of God. Here's another drum that I'm going to bang and continually bang until I'm deaded. The greatest commandment is to worship God. It's not social justice. It's not adding to the church, because actually that is the Great Commission, not the Great Commandment. So this idea of remembrance, of communion, is vital to our lives.
I know.
So the next service where we are partaking in communion, let's not just use it as a quiet time and just self-reflection or anything like that. Let's actively use it as a time of remembrance and a time to give glory to the one who is above it all, who took our sin, and now we are saved in his name.